Stuka Joe here. Today we start a new playthrough series with this game, A Gate of Hell, designed by Paul Rohrbaugh and published in Against the Odds magazine, issue number 49, which is the May 2018 issue. This is an area impulse game about the campaign by the Union to take Charleston in 1863, lasting from July to September. Historically, the Union failed. It was not until 1865 that Sherman took the city. And this is a campaign that there's been a Hollywood movie made on one of its battles. One of the Confederate forts is Fort Wagner, and the 54th Massachusetts, which is a regiment composed mostly of African Americans, was one of the regiments that led an attack on Fort Wagner, and it was a very courageous attack, but eventually the Union failed and had to withdraw. And Fort Wagner is just one of the forts in the Charleston City Defense Complex. You have also Fort Sumter, and Fort Sumter in the game is a land and a sea area at the same time. You see there also possible mines, and those are the counters with the question marks. You see also Confederate ironclads surrounding Fort Sumter, and each of these forts provides support to one another. And here you have an area L40, you have Fort Moultrie. And if we go further to the west here, in L54 we have Fort Pinckney, and of course more possible minefields, mines, and many of those counters are dummy counters. And because I'm playing it solo, instead of setting up dummy counters consciously, I just mix them all up and set them as so there without myself knowing which counter is a dummy and which counter is an actual mine. Some of the Confederate forces start already on the map. Units belong to formations, and that's important because you activate most combat units, most land units, by formation. Here we see the units of Graham's brigade set up in area L6. You see back there also one cavalry regiment of Simonton, which is set up in area L17, and both areas are entrenched with a level 1 trench marker. And here you see close to Union forces that begin the game in area L3, there are more units of Simonton's division with an entrenchment 2 marker. This game, there are 3 types of areas. Those with the letter L are land areas. Those with the letter S are sea areas. And there are also river areas, denoted by the letter R. And river areas are also boundaries between land areas. And there you see elements of Hagwood's division in L1, which is Kiowa Island. And there are more elements of that division in L25. And you see the river there, and the space R2. And the river continues up north. And this particular river reaches another Confederate fort, Fort Pemberton. The Union forces are mostly off the map in zone boxes, and we will take a look at them. But some of the Union units begin on the map. Here we see in Folly Island, space L2, 4 units of Howell's division. And they are in an entrenchment 2 marker. And nearby, you see there elements of Simonton's Confederate division in space L11. The other Union forces that begin on the map are those in space L3. and that's the division of Vosges. And nearby Vosges, in space L8, we have the other elements of Simonton's division in an entrenchment 2-level marker. And the Union has considerable forces off the map, and these off-map zones in the islands. You see there the divisions of Stevenson and Davis, and they start with a -2 marker, meaning that in the first turn it's going to be very improbable that they make it onto the map. But there's also the divisions of Chatfield and Strong. Also off-map in Port Royal, we see that the Union has a substantial group of ironclads. The Confederates also have forces that are off the map in these zones. In the Georgia and East Florida districts, there's the division of Taliaferro, and we have also Anderson's division with a -2 marker. Also, we have the brigade of Finnegan and Cobb's division. And the Confederates also have off the map in the 3rd and 4th district zones the brigade of Trappier and Walker's division. The game consists of 11 turns, starting in the July 2 turn and ending with the September 4 turn. Now, this turn record track on the map also doubles as the impulse track. We will be using it only as the impulse track. I made a turn record track where I will place the reinforcements, and here you see the turns, and you see that the Union and Confederates receive reinforcements in turn 4, and the Union also receives reinforcements in turn 6. In this game, each side receives military support points, and there's a military support point table on which each side rolls at the beginning of the game. These points can be accumulated from turn to turn, and you use these points to activate units and to conduct certain special action with units. This is an area impulse game, so players take actions in impulses, starting with the first impulse and beginning with the third impulse. At the end of that impulse, a player rolls 2d6 in what is called a sunset dice roll. And if the result is that which is indicated there, then the turn ends. You see that for turn 3, it has to be a 12, which is kind of unlikely. But as the impulses progress, the likelihood of a sunset increases. And in this game, if a sunset dice roll is successful, the Union has the ability to spend military support points to extend the turn by one more impulse. At the beginning of the game, the Union starts with the advantage. The advantage is a mechanism by which a player can re-roll any one dice roll during the turn, and also can use such advantage for example, regrouping units or using strategic movement or conducting amphibious movement or crossing a navigable river, all without having to spend any military support points. Of course, when a side uses the advantage, the marker passes to the other side. So you're going to see the advantage switching back and forth during the game. But at the beginning of the game, the Union has the advantage. So what are the victory conditions in this game? There are two kinds of victory conditions. There are automatic victory conditions. The Union wins immediately if it moves any ground unit into Charleston. The Union also wins immediately if a Union ironclad occupies the Fort Sumter Sea area. And Fort Sumter has been reduced, and there are no mines or obstructions in any of the adjacent areas to Fort Sumter. So for that one to apply, the Union has to soften up the defenses around Fort Sumter. Now, the Confederates also have automatic victory conditions. If 5 or more Union ironclads are sunk and only one Confederate fort is eliminated at the end of any turn, the Confederates win. And the Confederates also win if there are no unreduced Union ground units in play on the map. And all units start, of course, at full strength. So for that to happen, all Union units on the map would have to be reduced. And if that happens and only one Confederate fort has been eliminated, at the end of the turn, the Confederates win an automatic victory. If no automatic victory conditions occur, then at the end of turn 11, the control of various, let's say, key areas and zones will determine the winner. And a player can win either a decisive or marginal victory depending on control of these areas. And which areas are those? L5, which has Fort Wagner. L17, which also faces Charleston Bay. Fort Sumter, which, as stated before, is a land and sea area. And we have L40, which has Fort Moultrie. Then also another key area is area L34, which has Fort Pinckney. And finally, to the north of Fort Pemberton, we have area L19. And one of the off-map zones is also one of these key areas or zones. And that is the one for the 3rd and 4th districts. And at the beginning of the game, that zone is in the hands of Confederate forces. So there's a total of 7 key areas and zones. If at the end of the game the Union player controls 4 of them, the Union wins a decisive victory. If it controls 3, it is a marginal victory. If it only controls 2, it is a draw. And if the Confederates have caused the Union to only control 1 or less, the Confederates win a marginal victory if the Union only controls 1, and a decisive victory if it controls none. However, if the Union at the end of the game has this marker here, the Swamp Angel, deployed in any area within 3 areas of Charleston, then the Swamp Angel counts as an objective fulfilled for victory. Meaning that, for example, for a marginal victory, where normally the Union needs 3 key areas or zones to be occupied, with the Swamp Angel it would only need 2. The Swamp Angel was a massive 200-pounder Parrott rifle that the Union used to bombard Charleston into submission, and it did not achieve its purpose of terrorizing the Southerners to surrender. But in the game, that is the effect it has if it is still deployed at the end of the game within 3 areas of the city. And during the game, the Confederate player can use military support points to train the crew of the Hunley. And as the military support points are spent, the Hunley finally can move into the Hunley Ready box. And when that happens, we place the Hunley marker, which on the front side shows the question mark as to whether it is a dummy counter or a mine attack. We place this counter with the other counters in a particular sea area. So when Union ironclads enter the sea area, they will be met either with a mine attack, which has a number on the back, a dummy counter that says dummy, or if the Hunley has been deployed, they will be met with an attack by the Hunley, which there's a particular table on which we roll to see the effect of the attack. So this is a Gate of Hell. And we start with the next episode, the 2nd week of July. And I'll leave you with the introduction to the playthrough series with the song I composed for the game. And this is Stuka Joe signing off for now. Thanks for watching.